we must understand this logic,
Hmm.
is that the Pakistani military state, in their case, the entire nuclear weapons chain is controlled by the military.
Yeah.
Military are the decision makers.
Welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. Welcome to another edition of the Gist. And we're looking at whether a new Cold War is upon us. Signs of this have been evident for some time in the gradual breakdown and nullification of international arms control agreements. Then we have NATO's expansion into Eastern Europe, despite promises not to do so. We also have Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and so on and so forth. Now we have the Trump-Putin conversation in Alaska over the weekend, and there's speculation that it could lead to a ceasefire or end of hostilities in Ukraine. Could it lead to something bigger? That's something we're going to examine with my guest here, Brigadier Arun Sahgal of the Forum for Strategic Initiatives. Brigadier, welcome. Glad to see you again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure coming on your show.
Sir, how do you see the Putin-Trump meeting?
Okay, before I come to the Putin-Trump meeting, you talked about the global nuclear environment in a disarray.
Yeah.
So, from our perspective, who watch these developments, we are looking at the beginning of the third nuclear age. The first nuclear age was when the nuclear weapons were developed, and we went into what is called mutually assured destruction. Large number of
Yeah.
weapons were created, and we kept during the Cold War we kept each other at bay. The second nuclear age was more nuanced when the arms reduction treaties, a large number of other efforts were made to control the nuclear weapons and to prevent inadvertent escalation. And also during this period was there were three new nuclear weapon states came into being. Two acknowledged, India and Pakistan, and third unacknowledged till date, that is Israel.
Mhm.
But what is now happening is that why we call the present era as the third nuclear age. For the first time, we are seeing increased nuclear tensions. You are aware of the fact that nuclear weapons were leveraged during the Ukraine-Russia war. They
Yeah.
have been always in being, whether used or unused, will being
Yeah.
deployed somewhere, readiness, drills being carried out, etc. Then we also have a new concept called non-strategic nuclear weapons and strategic non-nuclear weapons.
Hmm.
In non-strategic nuclear weapons, we saw Orishing, a
Yeah.
hypersonic weapon system, destroying credible, important targets of the Ukrainians, deeply buried targets.
Yeah.
It was actually a uranium plant. Not yeah, it was a processed uranium plant which was destroyed. Then we saw the strategic non-nuclear weapons. The best example of that are two. One is the way mother of all bombs were used by the B-12 B-2 bombers of America, flying for 24 hours and attacking the Fordo and the other
Iran.
nuclear sites in Iran.
Iran.
And the second of the strategic non-nuclear weapons was the Indian attack on presumably in Krana Hills, which was presumed to be sometime a nuclear command and control center. So there are already concerns being exercised by the Pakistanis on our India's potential test of a 7.5-ton warhead weapons mounted on an Agni 5 as India's version of MOB, mother of all bombs. So the whole idea is that there is this shift of nuclear posturing and
Mm-hmm.
near nuclear use. I would say nuclear posturing and near nuclear use that is coming about in the not only in the lexicon but in actual use.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the third is the aspect of almost all nuclear powers are upgrading their nuclear arsenals.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain this to you. We have an interesting example of China, which is upgrading its arsenal from a current figure of 500 to about 1500 weapons, upgrading that arsenal by DF-26, DF-31, DF-41, long-range ICBM system, multiple MIRV warheads, etc., etc. It is deploying them in a large areas to prevent what is called the counter force strike capabilities of the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is this happening? This counter force capabilities are on the increase. They are driven by the ISR capabilities, the global strike systems, and the use of space based assets, which are allowing people to pinpoint the facilities and hit them with pinpoint accuracy. So this is the another aspect that is emerging on the global scene, and this has resulted in a very interesting unknown, which has not been given enough publicity, a shift in the Chinese nuclear doctrine. There
Mm-hmm.
is a shift in the Chinese nuclear doctrine from assured retaliation and no first use, but by assured delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Assured retaliation, no force used by assured
Assured
delivery.
delivery.
But now they have moved on to what is being called the early warning counter attack.
Mm-hmm.
Early warning counter strikes, not attack, sorry, it's called early warning counter strike. The logic is very simple. The Chinese leadership believes that the precision strike weapons and the missile defenses and global ICR could create a situation where the nuclear second strike of the of the Chinese against the intended targets could get degraded. So they do
Mm-hmm.
not want to take a chance of launching second strike onto areas where it has its chances of being intercepted and degraded before it reaches its target. So this is an
Mm-hmm.
interesting facet. The second issue is that world till today, even as far as the Americans and the Russians are concerned, are constrained by the strategic arms treaty, which has limited number of weapons to 1500 on either side. Now, this is the last element of the INF treaty has already gone, which basically means that you can deploy any kinds of cruise missiles, etc., in any theater of your choice.
Yeah.
But this had put the numbers at 1500 each. The problem here is now is that it is expiring in February 2026,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no treaty on the horizon. Now, coming back to your original point of what happened between Putin and Mr. Trump, uh, there was an attempt made to push strategic arms reduction talks as a part and parcel of their talks at
Mm-hmm.
the anchorage. The whole idea was the time is too short. We are already entering into end of August. It will not
Mm-hmm.
be possible to negotiate a new treaty uh, in the meantime. So let them at least have a discussion and a discourse to extend this treaty.
Mm-hmm.
But there is now a new problem occurring. Now that problem that is occurring is that Chinese are upgrading their arsenal as I discussed earlier. But
Yeah.
Chinese do not want to become part and parcel of any arms reduction talks. Because Chinese believe that they are not strong enough, capable enough at this particular time. They have had a head start, and we will be constrained if we were to be brought in at this stage. Added to that is the American concern that they are not going to be dealing with one nuclear power, but they're dealing with two nuclear powers. Okay, so that's another element of this thing, which is making things very difficult. The next point in this whole ball game, is the fact is that the in Asia, both Japan and Korea are concerned about the efficacy of extended deterrence.
Mhm.
They are concerned whether an extended deterrence is even a workable proposition or not.
Mhm.
That's why you will hear murmurs, and that's part of the third nuclear age, is that murmurs and strong voices being raised, particularly in Korea, which has been, well, let's put it this way, tinkering with the idea of making a bomb, uh, to come up with to rethink its nuclear deterrence. They're thinking as, why should not we have a nuclear weapon?
Mhm. Mhm.
Similar issues are coming up with the Japanese side, although Japanese are much more reticent on this issue.
Yeah.
But there are voices being raised as to, can we defend ourselves without a nuclear weapon? So this is one aspect. The second interesting aspect is, with America threatening to withdraw its nuclear umbrella from Europe,
Yeah.
there are new voices being raised over there, is how do we defend ourselves against a large and a huge Russian arsenal, which is a multi-dimensional arsenal. So in that case, while the Western European powers are talking in terms of providing each other nuclear guarantees, like Japan is looking at providing, France is looking at providing nuclear guarantees to other Western European countries like Italy and others. There is already the British, who will retain some elements of the nuclear deterrence, but the Eastern Europeans are in panic.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
whenever and I'm today talking on the nuclear issues, whenever there is any kind of rapprochement or ceasefire or a comprehensive settlement, the issue of nuclear umbrella to Eastern Europe, and how this will work in the case of Western Europe, will become a germane issue. So this
Mhm.
is one aspect of the question that I will try to highlight.
Mhm. Just
So
one word, sir.
yeah,
This
sure.
extended deterrence, could you just explain that?
Extended deterrence basically means is that Americans have nuclear weapons located on the soil of another country, in this case Japan,
Yeah.
and there's an agreement between Japan and the United States, that should Japan be threatened by a third party with nuclear attack, the
Yeah.
Americans will come to its aid. Now, it's a very interestingly worded document. Now that I've been in the track to for a large number of years, I realize how these diplomats operate. The whole idea is the wordings are left so vague and open that they can be interpreted. So there is no guarantee. They will say that the provisions of extended deterrence will kick in, whether the American president will take a call on case of a nuclear attack, even a tactical nuclear weapon attack on the Japanese soil, is an issue that will remain in the realm of perception. It will never be, nobody will can give you a definite answer on that. So extended deterrence, therefore, the concern is, when push comes to shove, will America go for a nuclear war with a third country on behalf of Japan? In long
Yeah.
and short of it is that. So,
Mhm.
so do
And with
you?
Trump around, it's unlikely, or at least that's the impression he gives.
Well, yeah. I mean, the question is that the Trump is unlikely to go down that route, because if you notice, the entire strategy of the new American administration is that allies have to pay for their own
Pay
defense.
for
They
their
have to
own. Yeah.
increase their own defense, America can only oversee. America is only, let's put it there, a defense influencer, if you want to call him
Hmm.
anything else, rather than a defense supplier, as it has been during the last 3 years of Ukraine war, where it provided arms, weapons, equipment, etc., satellite coverages to Ukraine to fight that war. And incidentally, that war is never being fought from Ukraine. That war has been fought from the shed in Poland, from where entire targeting is being done, and they are passed
Hmm.
on to the Ukrainians to shoot with their weapons. So this is the scenario in which we are operating in. So now you came about Operation Sindoor. You raised an interesting issue on Operation Sindoor. See, in Operation Sindoor, there has been a thinking on the part of the Pakistanis is that there's nuclear deterrence is in two parts. One part is that tactical nuclear weapons compensate for their that's what the conventional insecurity.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they believe that if a large scale offensive or attack takes place against Pakistanis, and Pakistanis find themselves in a critically position where they can't handle the situation, and it's so at that particular point in time, they said that we will use nuclear weapons. Now, their perception is based on the fact is use of tactical nuclear weapon or whatever nuclear weapon in their own territory is an acceptable perception because they are using in their own territory and India
Hmm.
and they are responding to Indian conventional offensive attack. But from Indian perspective, it basically means is that you have crossed the nuclear threshold and the
Hmm.
India's nuclear doctrine kicks in. So we have been trying to tell them all this while, and interestingly, unknown to various people, there has been a nuclear signaling in both Balakot and even in this crisis, which has been nuance signaling. So this
Hmm.
nuance signaling was done in the Balakot. But what has happened in this case? In this case, what has happened is large scale standoff conventional attacks have degraded his air defenses and had the potential of and struck at his deepest targets, his air bases, etc., and his so-called red lines. These were his red
Hmm.
lines when he says the degradation of my war waging potential. Because on 10th of May, what had happened was Pakistan was naked. Pakistan could not fly his his warplanes. Pakistan had no air defense of any nature. So
Hmm.
at that particular point in time, according to Kidwai's red lines, the red line should have kicked in,
Yeah. Hmm.
but it did not kick in. But what we fail to take cognizance of is that that red line actually did kick in terms of not directly deploying nuclear weapons, but Pakistan going to uncle in Washington D.C. and telling them that I have no option left now because I am exposed. India can strike me anywhere. Tomorrow it can take out my nuclear weapons through precision strikes, and we are seeing the credibility of Indian strikes, and therefore you have to step in. So Pakistan used third-party deterrence as an off-ramp to come out of Operation Sindoor. I repeat,
Hmm.
Pakistan used third-party off-ramp to come out of this nuclear quagmire that it had come up. Now, what this has happened is it has made a large number of precision Pakistani nuclear experts to rethink their red lines and
Hmm.
say we have always been maintaining that if India does this, India does that, and it's a graduated, escalated
No
response.
escalation.
That
Hmm.
has gone out of the window. No, the India responded at multi-dimensional levels in multiple depths, and yet we did not do anything.
Hmm.
So at the point which is coming about over here is that it has created a dangerous scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Now the, the problem again gets accentuated for a country like India, and we must understand this logic,
Mm-hmm.
is that the Pakistani military state, in their case, the entire nuclear weapons chain is controlled by the military.
Yeah. Mm.
Military are the decision makers. So, unintended or ununderstood escalation, not fully understanding the consequences of their escalation, can take place in panic situations by Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Does that hold us? Answer is no.
Okay. Mm.
The answer to that, basically, from our perspective, is this: we should be conscious of that, enhance our capabilities, understand what is happening, upgrade our ISR capabilities, and send, and also as part of preparedness, have a certain degree of strategic readiness, which must be exhibited as a part of a game of brinkmanship to the other
Mm-hmm.
side, that we are ready for launch. I mean, we are ready to deal with anything. And here, why I mentioned about the Chinese early warning counter-strike element is worth looking at by a country like India. I'm not saying you move away from assured retaliation and no first use, but technologically, we must start looking at the idea of early warning counter strike, which
Mm-hmm.
comes within the realm of no first use. But if I have technologically, I am capable of picking up that nuclear weapons are on their way, or nuclear weapons are being readied, or they are being brought into silos or brought in on the launch pads, there is India must have the capacity and the capability to retaliate under those circumstances.
So that's preemptive.
This is not preemptive. I'm not saying that. I'm saying early warning counter strike. I have an early warning. I mean, look, you don't bring your launchers out, and you do not allow your launchers to be picked up by the satellites on the other side, and say that
Mm-hmm.
I am not launching on a launch. To me, you are ready to launch. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I might be talking about this new Iron Dome or the Indian Kavach that we are talking about,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people I
Mm.
understand they are at best 60 to 70% effective. They are not fully effective.
Yeah. Mm.
So the idea is, what the Chinese are thinking is, if the Chinese were to launch, what kind of strike is the Pakistani going to launch? In our mind, it's going to be a counter value strike. No, it could be multiple counter force strikes. How will they
Mm.
launch counter force strikes, sir? They will launch counter force strikes supported by the Chinese in the same manner in which, as we are all aware, Chinese picked up, I repeat, Chinese picked up the launch of a BrahMos missile from an Indian frigate and passed on that information to the Pakistanis. And the Pakistani DGMO spoke to our DGMO and said that you are about to launch a weapon against me.
Mm-hmm. I
Now you
see.
know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. This is
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
actual story. This is not a story. This is an actual thing which has happened.
Yeah. Mm.
It's a so we held back. So when I am talking about early warning counter strike, I am talking about this scenario. The scenario is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pakistani, through the Chinese, picked up the launch of a BrahMos missile. Say tomorrow it was a nuclear weapon, it would have been picked up by this thing. And do you think the Pakistanis would, if we had intended to launch it, the other side would not have retaliated? They would have. So
Yeah.
this is what we are talking about is important issue to note in all this is that nuclear weapons are being talked about as extended part of a conventional war,
Yeah.
which
Mm.
can evolve itself into a strategic fisk off, or a strategic standoff, or a strategic use, if you say, under these circumstances. So, so the lesson from my perspective, from our side, is that we really need to think through. And there is a huge amount of literature I have is how the Chinese are using their technological capabilities, the satellite systems, etc., etc., to ensure that they pick up these kind of information. So I'm giving you a live example of Sindoor, in which an early warning counterstrike was constrained, although it was not a nuclear strike, but it was going to be a conventional strike by early warning system being picking it up. So I
Hmm.
stop here. Anything else you want to ask me, sir?
This was during the first day of the operation.
No, it was on the 10th morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, sir. Well, just before the ceasefire.
Uh-huh. So that would have been the final exchange, presuming that.
The exchange was to be on Karachi.
I see. Mhm.
Karachi was being targeted, and that's the time it was said that no, we are seeing you getting ready to hit fire. Don't do it. There are
Mhm.
some other inputs regarding other launch on warning kind of scenarios that were also there during Ops Sindoor. So
Mhm.
this is one lesson which I thought has not been properly taken up by our establishment and other people who follow these issues. But this is an important aspect which I thought I will highlight in your show.
Mhm. So, in a sense, what you're telling me is that we are even closer to the precipice than ever before.
I'm not saying we are closer to precipice or not, but I'm trying to say is uh, two things. Uh, One is the nuclear weapons are now getting intermixed with conventional warfare
Conventional, yeah.
at
Yeah.
a lower levels. And number two is the technological advancements allows us to understand when the other side, to that extent it is a work of the deterrence, because if we know the other side is about to launch a nuclear strike at us, we can also launch our weapon, or we can take actions to degrade it before it is launched. So, but
Mhm.
in any case, the whole idea is that launch on warning is an aspect which which needs to be studied and examined, not only in terms of strategic weapons, but as it happened in Ops Sindoor, we were told at the last minute uh, that itself is something which we need to examine in much more detail.
Mhm. Are we able to detect something prior to launch or preparations for a launch? Were we able to uh,
Yes, the
identify
short
that?
answer is yes. We are very capable, and as the time goes by, we are enhancing our capabilities. Our space-based systems are increasing by the day. Uh, we may have some shortcomings. We are, let's put it this way. I would, from my analysis, I'll put vis-a-vis the Chinese us at what 40, no, 55 to 60%. But vis-a-vis us and the Pakistani, there are about 20 to 30% of 40% to us. We have a 60% gap, but that gap is covered by what they get support from the Chinese.
Yeah.
So to that extent, it covers up another 20 to 30% gap. So gap comes that much
So it's
minimal.
virtually the same then.
Well, more or less.
Mhm. So the Prime Minister's announcement of air defense shield,
Yes.
Sudarshan Chakra, whatever,
Yeah.
that is the work in progress.
Sudarshan Chakra, it's not as if the entire country is going to get covered with it, but the key
Key
areas, key
targets. Mm.
centers, the key areas will be covered by this thing. This process is already on as part of the National Air Defense Project. Uh, these have got multiple names. I keep forgetting them, but yes,
Mm.
India is on the move. India has developed fairly advanced capabilities, exogenous and endogenous. Exogenous is when it's in coming up against us, it's still in space. Endogenous is when it's on the terminal phase. We have enough capacities and capabilities to do it. And we are on the job as far as this thing is concerned. We have an old program, and it's not that something which we have neglected. So, yes, India is very much on the ball as far as this thing is concerned. And please also remember one thing is that we did show off very well in dealing with incoming uh, drones and missile systems
Yeah.
from Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. So we should have confidence in ourselves that we are reasonably capable and reasonably evolved and reasonably advanced technologically to intercept such systems in the future as well.
In
But
that
our
sense, would you
problem
say?
is,
Yeah.
sorry, you're
Yeah.
sorry.
Please go ahead.
No, no, that's all. I finished.
Now, I'm just wondering, in that sense, the Indian situation is more or less parallel with what is existing between the US and Russia.
Indian situation vis-a-vis China, we are much below. We do not have that thing. It's not the number of warheads, it's not the number of penetration that we can do, etc. More system we have already developed, etc. But it is the ISR and the eyes and ears in space. That's
Hmm.
where we are lacking from the this thing, and integrating our information channels as a one single whole as part of a multi-domain of architecture,
Hmm.
multi-domain strategic architecture. That's an area that we need to be looking at much more closely, and I'm sure people in various places in our country are looking at that. They are prescient enough to understand these dynamics.
Hmm. Assuming, last question, assuming there is an agreement on Ukraine tomorrow, I mean, whenever. Um, and is that an incentive for the Americans and the Russians to move forward on the other nuclear issues?
It all depends on how the Americans play the card with the Europeans. See,
Hmm.
it's not America and Russian problem. The problem is also with the Western world, and that's
Yeah.
Europe. Does Europe feels naked? And if Americans' weapons are there in Europe, then the nuclear threat remains.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, mind you, the INF treaty has gone. So now what happens is that Paris can be doesn't have to be hit by a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
You can take out the Paris by an
Hmm.
Orishink and large number of Orishinks being targeted at them, or use tactical nuclear weapons. And
Yeah.
then poised after that is that if you use anything higher than that against me, I will use strategic weapons. So what's America going to do? And then again, this whole issue is coming up. The Arctic route and the Greenland issue comes up. That again is making the continental US uh, open to, uh, let's put it this way, a conventional attacks by the other side, because
Hmm.
and and with the relationship between Canada and United States the way it is, that's going to create even a bigger problem. So that's why there is a
Hmm.
interesting piece in by my friend Stephen Rosen, who written about rethinking the American deterrence. So
Hmm.
they are already thinking about how to protect continental US from such situations. So
Hmm.
this is what the situation is, sir.
Insecurity all around, and more
Well,
nuclear weapons.
yeah, because the world is the way it is, and everybody is fighting everybody else, and
Yeah.
Mr. Trump is the biggest disruptor on this earth.
Hmm.
So everybody is covering, uh, doing a CYA operation, and ensuring that my security is not undermined because of negligence, leave alone anything else.
Yeah. Brigadier Sehgal, thanks for that masterclass. For our rather general audience, this is a great occasion to learn and understand how these things work and don't work. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Pleasure
sir.
listening to you.
Thank you. God bless.
That's all we have in this conversation on the gist. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Thank you very much.